Hi everybody, my name is Alan. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, I mean, we've talked about this before so many times, and we've done the show for, you know, on Earth time a long time now, and we've talked about, in a way, the trials and tribulations of this life. In this particular week, and as we said before, could you pick the week out where there was a suicide bombing in Jerusalem, where there was a retaliatory strike in Palestinian territory, where there was drought, where there was famine, where there was wars, where there was terrorism, where there's in Iraq and in Afghanistan and Africa and Liberia. I mean, Jesus, it's whacked and never ending in a way. And we all have those things, and then you get it. That's a personal thing for a lot of people in the army, people in these countries, people who are having hunger and starvation and droughts and all those things. And then for like the bridging family, in a way, the interesting or the bringing it all home part. I mean, since we did the last show, which was a couple of weeks ago, the last live show, someone who was, in a sense, died before her time. She was 26 years old, and she was one of the purest beings that we knew. I mean, she's still, to this day, her name is Abigail, and she's probably been on the show more than anyone else. She was a singer-songwriter. She started when we started the show, and she was 16 or 17. And she was just this pure being. And in a way, too pure and too innocent and too naive for the trauma of this world with all the things that I talked about. It was just, in a way, too much for her. And in the bridging family, that's, I guess, spans from, well, you saw the little boy, I mean, I guess he's around 10 now or something, to 80 or 90, some people in New York who help us with the show. And in the last year, 3 people out of that family have transitioned, have left this earth. And what does that mean? I mean, it means that, in a way, and they were from the ages of 26 to 60, approximately. So it's really, in a way, it's hard to say. Do any of us know when our last breath is coming? I mean, for all of us, we're here today and gone tomorrow. It's just which day. So how are we going to use those days and take those days and be in those days and be in that love? And isn't that what we want, is to feel love and share it, to not feel separate from ourselves, our earth, all the incredible things on this earth, all the incredible beings on this earth? So how can we, living this life with all the things that happen, all the traumas, all the personal losses that happen, how can we do that? By knowing that internal connection, by knowing that God. Not the separate God of all the different religions, but that true God from which all the religions started. A God that doesn't have a country. A God that doesn't have a religion. A God that doesn't have a color or an ethnicity or a height or a weight or a sexual preference. That thing that is what we all are. And again, that's what Bridging Heaven and Earth is about, to help us come in touch with that thing over and over and over and over again. And that's why all the guests come to share their love. And again tonight, that's why we're doing this show, and that's why Phillip Mountrose has come to share his love and his gifts and his wisdom with us all. He's a spiritual teacher, he's a healer, he's the co-director of the Awakenings Institute, he's the author of a number of extraordinary books. One is Getting Through to Your Soul. Another is Getting Through to your Emotions with EFT, which is emotional freedom techniques. And his life is dedicated to feeling love and sharing it. I mean, he's starting a hypnosis institute. He has another one, and he's starting a second one. And we're just honored to have Phillip here with us. And because of Abigail's death, I mean, another thing we're planning on doing for the 3 people is, in an upcoming show, have a memorial where we talk about all these things, where we talk about how we want to share that love today. We want to be in that love today. None of us have a guarantee of tomorrow. There's not a guarantee of this earth having a tomorrow. So let's be in the love now. So we have two incredible songs that Abigail sang on the show in the past, To the Highest Thrones and The Lighter I Am, and we're going to show those, and you'll see what I mean by her incredible talent and beauty and purity. So let's do a short meditation, then we'll come on with the first Abigail song, and then Phillip will be with us, and it's another opportunity. So please join me, and let's be in that love from now on as best we can, from now on and now on and now on and now on. So short meditation, please. Okay, so we're going to start with Abby's first song. It's To the Highest Thrones, written and performed by Abigail.
Hi. Remember me? I haven't been around for a while in Santa Barbara, but I've been with you in spirit, I think. I've been in the woods playing songs and playing with myself, my spirit, and I'm here to play tonight for you what I've written in the woods. So this is called To the Highest Thrones. In a rapture, time is given to each fellow guardian, and each wind chime that's listened to is followed with a hum. Gracefully each mystery mystically unfolds thee while showered by the visions of tomorrow. And the queen and king sit side by side now, and to their kingdom they stand side by side and bow, and their children are so old, and they're learning what in silence is told. A royal grace, a way to face a promised patient goal. 'Tis now retrieved in honesty, this peace will make them whole. Now given to them shining gold, a chalice made of choice, and they drink to thirst in freedom's arms, acknowledging each voice. Look inside the glowing cup, reflections of them rising up. They're drinking from the showers of tomorrow. And the queen and king sit side by side now, and to the kingdom they stand side by side and bow. And their children are so old, and they're learning what in silence is told. And the empress and the emperor are greeted in their hearts, and they know this is the time to be embodied in this part. Taking off their velvet robes, they stand in nothing but two rows and step in to the visions of today. Bring forth the prince Leo. It's time to begin. next one takes the throne, as the finding what inside lands is known, and the children are so.
Wow, that was Abigail. So we're on the set with Phillip. Welcome, Phillip. Thanks for coming.
Oh, my pleasure.
So you've written books about like getting through to your emotions, getting through to your soul. First of all, how would you define soul for people who, or just, you know, everybody has different ways. Why don't you define
Well, the way we understand it is the soul is something that carries on past this physical life or physical incarnation. And it's here with us now. We often see it as connected with the heart area, and there's that sense of the heart and soul. So the soul is what guides you and connects you as an intermediary between here, living on earth, and there, meaning heaven. That's the theme of the show, the spiritual, eternal world. And that higher dimension of ourselves we call the higher self. And so the soul kind of connects us to our higher being.
So does everyone doesn't have the same soul? That oneness that I was talking about at the open, you would call that something else?
Well, ultimately, if you get enough souls together and everyone's connected, then you have the one soul or God.
I see. So everything together is we're just defining things now.
Yes, there's individuality and diversity and unity.
Right. Okay, so why do you think it is, as a start, that a lot of people aren't getting through to that root of themselves, that soul that you defined?
Well, it's a process, it's a journey, and we talk about in the Getting Through to Your Soul book that my wife and I, my wife Jane Mountrose is part of all this, and it's a journey where you go from lack of awareness or not as much awareness to more awareness, and it's a continuum where you take on more responsibility for yourself, more emotional awareness and dependability, more sense of your inner power, not external power, more sense of who you are, more sense of how to trust yourself. And so you go more and more in that direction. So it's a process, it's a journey that we're all on, and wherever we are, that's where we're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. So, and would you say that there are certain things, you know, in this plane on Earth at this time that make it somewhat problematic to get through, or is it? I mean, why isn't everybody through already? Why aren't we through?
Why aren't we through? Well, you know, in a way, you know, why aren't we in college instead of being in 6th grade? Because that's sort of where we are in the journey and what we're here to learn about. So this tremendous obstacles, these challenges in our way, is what is going to help us learn, and we set up those obstacles. We talk about, Alan, the 7 spiritual activations in our Getting Through to Your Soul book, and just to give a sort of a metaphoric description of it, it's like your personality's driving on the road, and it sees a hitchhiker, which is your soul in our little story metaphor here. And that's what we call the first activation. In other words, there is something more than just a physical, material, survival life. And the second activation is you start to renunciate a little bit of this traffic jam of life. Hey, I'm in a traffic jam, there must be more. In other words, I need to go within a little bit. And that takes you to the third activation, which is a sense of empowerment, a sense of I can get out of this mess with the help of my soul. It may be kind of dim, it may be kind of external, it may be just like I know I've got to try something to get out of this traffic jam. And that takes you into the fourth activation, more of the heart. And these things correspond to chakras too, by the way. The fourth activation, that embracing that heart energy, that wounded energy, the energy of blockages, the energy of frustrated relationships. And you need to go into your own path more. And you have to break out of this constricted reality, a reality where you have to follow certain rules and do certain things and know more about who you really are. Which takes you to the fifth activation, because as you start to clear things in the brush and are exploring the journey out there in the wilderness, you start to have a sense of your own expression, your own fifth chakra. In other words, you need to clear a certain amount of stuff to speak your own truth. And as you start to speak your own truth, you get to a point where you start to, we say, balance the archetypes, the patterns in society, the institutions in society, which kind of reflect who we are, have a limitation, put a limitation on our freedom. I'm not saying whether the government is good or bad, or the military is good or bad, or the IRS, or that's another subject. But they do hold us in limitation, and the trouble is we don't realize it. And as we go out there in the wilderness, we realize, wow, I can pick and choose. I can use what will help me, and I can reject what I don't. And I can follow the beat of my own drum, my own soul that's leading me in this journey. And then we go back into the traffic jam of life, the seventh activation, the transcendence, and then we can help other people get more out of the mess. So that's a little metaphoric description of...
Well, that's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so, and your book also has like 4 different like steps in that journey, that activation. So it has 7 activation and 4 steps.
Whoa, this is...
My God, we're already up to 4 times 7.
Boy, that's...
Right. But why don't you talk about those? I think we can get into those a little more, the 4 different... the steps.
The 4 keys to living your true or
right,
divine purpose.
Right.
Okay, so step 1 is understanding your soul, having a sense that you do have a soul. Yes.
And how, okay.
Yes, you do have a soul. Don't
right.
worry, everyone has a soul. We're okay on that. And second is connecting with your soul.
So how would somebody watching the show who's not as familiar, like say, as you with these topics, how would they understand they have a soul? What would be their method?
Okay.
They're not, I just heard the definition 5 minutes ago. It seems right to me. I know that there's something more than my material world. How do I understand that?
Well, I think most people recognize those higher moments, those moments that create memory, a beautiful sunset, something beautiful, aesthetic, uplifting art, uplifting music, times of beauty and nature. Those are very soulful moments. You feel you're there. You feel I'm here. And times of tragedy, when tragic things happen, you're very aware of yourself and your relationship to things. So those are moments when your soul is very active. But what you want to do is cultivate that in every moment. When you said at the beginning of the show, we don't know how long we're going to be here. So the viewers watching, if they think of, gee whiz, this might be the last show I ever watch, they're probably going to pay really close attention.
My God, is this what I wanted?
Okay.
Where's the flipper, honey?
Phillip and Ellen and the last thing. So they're going to...
Oh my God, is the flipper near button on?
So they're going to pay, so we're going to pay more. If this is our last conversation that we ever have, we're going to probably say this is going to be meaningful stuff.
Right.
And the idea is to be in that moment to moment, because then you're going to be aware of it and paying attention of who you are and what's going on.
And in reality, who would want to be any other place? Because that's when you're alive, if you're really paying attention and really there. So the problem is a lot of times we're not there, and then we feel, why don't I feel passionate or alive? Because we're not really where we are, in a sense.
Right. And those four steps of connecting with your divine purpose: 1, understanding your soul; 2, connecting with your soul; 3, becoming an expression of your soul; and 4, living your true purpose. That's all part of the journey that I just mentioned earlier on. And you want to do soul-centering connections. We talk about it in our works. And that is that connecting to the light, connecting to the energy in meditation. And we have a process called spiritual kinesiology, a healing process where you take that energy. You can just imagine a light coming down from above, or a beautiful experience in your life, maybe a sunset or a loved one. That soulful presence, you bring it into your being when you have a blockage, like you feel like you're not good enough, you feel like you can't speak up, you feel like there's something wrong with you, and that helps clear the blockage so you feel connected.
So that's a specific technique when you feel you're not connecting to your soul, or not connecting to something truer about you, however you would define it.
So we put a big emphasis on healing, because if you're not going to try to clear that, what's going to clear it? I mean, I would rather be proactive and say, I would like to clear the blockages of whatever problems I have than have to wait until I have an accident or a disease.
And so how do we know where the blockages are? I mean,
it's
can
actually
you see that?
Well, it's actually fairly simple we do have things about intuitive and auric work and that's another work we have on intuitive techniques. But just simply for anyone watching is, where is your life not working?
And not working is defined as
where's there a charge? Oh, they won't know the specifics, but they know every time I talk to my husband about such and such, I get angry. Or I'm really frustrated about this. or this is extremely stressful to me. My life doesn't work there. So that doesn't mean there's not something going on externally that's a problem, but there's something in you that's blocking your sense of clarity on it and needs healing. You don't have to heal it, but if you don't, then you have to wait till an accident or injury, or it just kind of remains buried in your unconscious. So I'd rather heal it.
So in other words, we're just, the intention is to go into that flow where like nothing is blocked, where you're...
So you have to clear the blockage. So if there's something in your way, in other words, let's say my blockage is the color black. You know, there are things about colors, but I'm just using. And so I'm talking, and I'm, he's got a black jacket on. I'm thinking to myself, so what's going to happen to me at that point? Take a guess. What would happen to me if suddenly I had an issue about a black jacket? And
You certainly wouldn't be in the flow of the conversation.
I wouldn't be in the flow, and I would try to be in the flow, but it would throw
sound
me.
right.
So until I clear that blackage of blackage or blockage or whatever it is, that's going to throw me off, and I can't be in the present and living my life and connected with my soul.
Right. So in other words, what we want to do is create situations where no blockages exist and nothing can. In other words, like we have no places where we get charged, no places where we get blocked.
The goal is in our estimation is to live a life filled with joy, love, and freedom.
Amen.
Joy, love, and freedom.
Go, boy.
And when you have blockages, you don't have joy. You have negative emotions. You don't have freedom. You have restrictive thinking, like the world's out to get me, or I can't succeed, or I'm not good enough. And you certainly don't have love because you're judging yourself and other people. So the way you transform that is to connect with your soul, or do a healing technique like we have in our Getting Through to Your Soul books, or Getting Through to Your Emotions, and transform that and clear it.
I mean, do you have like techniques that like you could do now for like 5 minutes or 7 minutes? Just look at the camera. Would you want to do it with me, or do you want to do it with the audience?
Take something something that would be an irritation. Is there something that slightly irritates you? Can you think of?
I'm not liking your shirt. No,
it's blue shirt. It's blue for you.
No, it's blue. Yeah, blue this afternoon.
Okay. Just, is there anything that's slightly bothersome that comes to mind?
You mean except for the crew? No,
at the moment, everything is pretty good. Yeah, you're in a pretty good space. Right. Well, okay, well...
No, I was thinking maybe if you want to just look at the camera, just a generic thing.
Okay, we'll do a generic...
Well, I think this camera will find.
Okay, we'll do this.
Yeah,
okay. So, there's something that bothers you. And it could be some person bothers you, but it's the emotion that comes up in you when you think of this person or this situation. And it could be anger, irritation, sadness. And so thinking of that, note how intense the emotion is. If it's anger or sadness or frustration, 10 would be total, 1 would be very little. Okay, so measure that, just self-assess, and you can do that. Whatever number you get is the right number. That gives you a sense of it. Okay, now as you sense that, we're going to anchor that. And I don't know if the camera can see my knee, but can you see around my knee? Is that
they could probably lower it.
But you can let's.
They can see it now.
Okay. Okay. Put your hand on your left knee as you think.
But your fly's open, so there's a major problem. No, sorry.
Okay. Put your hand on the left knee and think about the negative emotion. And now just put it aside. Let that go. Relax, which is very easy because you don't have to stress anymore. Just relax and remove your left hand. Now I want you to think of either a time that you were very positive and loving, or perhaps a time where or even a visualization now. Imagine yourself as a tree rooted to the earth, and a beautiful tree with that deep rooting into the earth, and above you is the sun, like your higher self coming down into you and filling you with the perfect love and healing and energy for you. And as you get a sense of that, put your right hand on your right knee, and that's called an anchor, where you're making it even deeper, that sense of the love and the healing and the balance. Remove your right hand, then put both hands on both knees. Remove the left hand, and remove the right hand, and take a deep breath. And that was one round of spiritual kinesiology. And just let me give you an example of how that works in say, a person I help with as a person.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay, good. I was just wondering.
Is Alan back? Cue Alan.
Hello.
Come back, Alan. Okay.
They had the audio people. Oh my God, he's yelling again.
That's fine. No offense. You were conversing with the higher beings and your higher oversoul.
Yeah, I was.
You're right on track.
It was fine.
Good. So let me give you an example of the spiritual kinesiology in action. A lady came to me and she said, Philip, I'm having a problem because I started an alternative church about 7 years ago with my best friend. And then I found out she was embezzling money from me in the church, and she was lying to me about it. Now, 7 years ago, and 7 years worth of meditations later, she's with me. She said, can I help you? And it was actually a class where I was demonstrating it. I said, okay, what are you feeling? And she was feeling a lot of hurt, and there's layers to it. So what I just did, a round of spiritual kinesiology, it may take several rounds in finding out different things about what's going on. Okay, she was hurt, and as we did one round of spiritual kinesiology, she felt better, and she started knowing she felt a lot of betrayal.
What a surprise.
What do you know? She felt
Who
very
would have
betrayed.
guessed that a good friend was stealing from you in your church and you'd feel slightly betrayed?
Yeah. So 7 years later, and the point of the story is after who knows how many dozens or hundreds of meditations, so she still had this intense blockage still.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It
how
is.
we hold on to
right.
this stuff. It is really amazing.
Yes, it shows you how well we can focus. So the idea is to shift the focus to the soul. And after a second round of spiritual kinesiology, by bringing that energy, everything lifted and shifted. In other words, she felt compassion toward her friend. And she didn't
And you're
have
saying
that.
this was a person who did meditation, who did a spiritual practice before, but
For years.
somehow her connecting with whatever she connected with in her meditation or anything didn't reach that place where she felt and understood that in essence, she was betrayed, but that doesn't,
Right.
She was betrayed, but it doesn't mean you have to hold on to it.
Right. And people were aware of our problems to some degree, but a lot of it is unconscious. You see, when you see things from the soul's perspective, everything completely transforms. And especially when you do the energetic shift through something like spiritual kinesiology or EFT, another energetic healing technique. Because you need a tool or an access to get there. That's why a lot of people will do certain things, even like meditation or go to church, and it can be a wonderful experience, but their blockages don't shift. They still stay with them.
I mean, I've heard different, we've had, a lot of guests on the show, and like some people would say that meditation can be a cleansing thing,
Yes, it can.
and, bust through the
Sure it can.
blockages. And so you're saying that sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't.
Right, because of the conscious soul connection and doing that little energy work, which looked like nothing was happening, almost a sleight of hand where I'm touching my knees, is you're making a direct connection with this soul's energy and changing your vibration at that point.
So it matters whether you touch your knee or whether you touch your shoulder?
It doesn't matter where you touch.
It doesn't matter.
I just touched the knee. You could have touched another part of your body just because it's an easy, convenient place to do it.
I see.
That's the only reason.
I see. But that's not really, it's more the intention almost.
It's the tension.
The intention or the intention.
The intention.
The intention.
The intention is to be aware of the conflict, be aware of the issue, be specific if you can, and anchor that, the negative part, and then bring in the soul to transform it, because the soul will transform the darkness into light.
So it's almost like shining the light on the darkness.
Exactly.
Before you finish that sentence, that's what came to my mind. Yeah, that's interesting.
So now if I, for instance, imagine if I just told this lady, I said, okay, I told her what she found out herself. Imagine if I said, be compassionate. I mean, she'd probably look at me and say, yeah, sure,
Everybody knows that. How do I do it?
Right,
I hate this betrayer.
Right. But she found that from within.
Right, and then it's real for that person.
Remember, the answers are within? Now, that used to get me really upset. Hey, the answers are within. Yeah, they're within. I can't find it. What's wrong with me? Well, this process will teach you how to find the answers within. And then the information that you receive will become your own.
Right, and that's what you want. You don't want it, and you want to learn the technique so they don't have to keep coming to your seminar. Not that it's a bad idea, but that they carry that with them. They carry that knowledge, that tool, that technique with them.
Right. And
so it's part of their life now. It's part of their
life.
Tools to learn and grow.
And we write about a lot of this in our books, and we have an email newsletter called Soul News at our website.
Why don't you? It's www.
www.gettingthru.org. That's getting thru.org.
And you're also a nonprofit, an educational...
Yes, a nonprofit spiritual organization connected with
great.
AIWP.
Well, I think maybe what we'll try to do now is have the second song, and we'll come back, and Phillip's starting a second, I think I mentioned at the open, school, and we'll talk about that and what he intends to do with it and where it is and how people can get in touch with it. So we want to have the second Abigail song. You know, I just love her, and I certainly wish her the best, and in a way she's in a place that she's more suited for at the moment. So it's The Lighter I Am, written and performed by Abigail. The Lighter I Am.
I just got back from Yosemite the other week. It was so beautiful. I recommend going there. Staying there as long as possible. And not leaving until they pry you out like they did with me. It was so beautiful. Anyway, this is called The Lighter I Am. Lighter. Get up on my horse and take to the highway. Go trotting along, it's a beautiful day. I hope that no one asks to go for a ride. The lighter I am, the quicker the other side. Oh yeah, the lighter I am, the quicker the ride. Oh yeah, the lighter I am. Well, I like my horse 'cause he can squeeze into space. I like my horse 'cause of the look on his face. The people all smile and wave as they drive. The lighter I am, the quicker the ride. Oh yeah, the lighter I am. The lighter I am. The lighter I am. Oh, the lighter I am, igniting the ride. My horse is so good, it could never complain. Though I know he'd rather be on a plane. The people jump back as I speed in my brain. The lighter I am, the quicker I'm sane. Oh yeah, the lighter I am. The lighter I am, oh, the quicker I am. The lighter I am, the lighter and I am.
Hi, that was Abby. So we're back with Phillip. So you're starting a second hypnosis school up in San Luis Obispo now, right? And
Right.
why are you starting a second one? Do you think there's that much call for it, or just in different cities, or?
Well, this is we have one holistic hypnotherapy school in Sacramento, and the next one is now opening in San Luis Obispo in October this year. And we just find it a wonderful way for people to learn about themselves, to have personal and spiritual growth, and if they want to, enhance or build a holistic practice. We used to give a lot of weekend seminars on EFT, the emotional freedom techniques. We haven't talked about that. That's a little tapping technique for healing, and the spiritual kinesiology that we talked about in the last segment. What we found, though, Alan, is that a weekend is not enough for people to integrate this material and really make it part of their lives. And in the holistic hypnotherapy course, we have 10 to 14 weekends, not in a row, but every 3 weeks. So it's a great opportunity. It's fun. People find their lives utterly transformed. It's very uplifting experience.
And so they're learning how to teach other people how to, or to take people into hypnosis?
That's part of it. The baseline is everyone will get a lot of hands-on healing and demonstrations, as well as all the materials and instruction. But the hypnosis is a very misunderstood idea.
I know.
In society.
I was just thinking, are we going to do
Yeah,
this?
he's
gone. Alan's finally gone.
Yeah. Well, remember we talked about in the last segment about following your true purpose, what you're here to do, which includes your work and your relationships to people and what your passion is. Well, part of that is becoming dehypnotized by what society has told you to do, to think the rules. In other words, from the moment you were born, from your family, from education, from the government, everywhere, structures your life. And that's okay. We need that, obviously, to some degree. Unfortunately, it also hypnotizes us in the negative sense. In other words, we follow things robotically. We buy things because we've been told. We think things because people have told us without having anything to do with our own sense
understanding
of our own soulful awareness.
Right.
But the idea in hypnosis and learning it for yourself and to help others if you choose is to use that relaxed state. That state, hypnosis is simply relaxation, like the guided visualizations is a state of hypnosis, but using it intentionally for healing, not to control other people's minds like they are in these scary movies we've seen when we've grown up and all the misunderstandings in society, but to use it in a healthy way, in a helpful way. And it's very powerful, very easy, very natural thing to do.
So this procedure, I mean, would it be where, as we see on television, or the magician, and then you start barking like a dog, or you fall in love with the...
What you're talking about is stage hypnosis, and that's what most people think of. They've seen a stage act.
Yeah, why don't you describe
the difference?
And
that's an entertainment.
I play like the general dope. So
yeah, okay, no, I'm not going to make you cluck like a chicken or anything like that. And that can be funny, and that has an entertainment value, but that's not holistic hypnotherapy.
And it's not healing.
And it's not healing. In fact, it's often an opposite. It's a substitute for healing.
Right.
In other words, it's a way of releasing your inhibitions in a kind of a fun-loving way. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it.
Right.
I'm just saying it's not therapeutic.
Right.
And what we do is teach that trance work of having people go in a relaxed state, not so they can act silly and crazy,
but to heal. They touch into their unconscious, their subconscious? So, I mean, do they remember? Why don't you talk about that?
When you're in hypnosis, you're in a state of very deep relaxation and heightened awareness. Usually you are more aware. In other words...
And more in remembrance. So when you're out of the hypnotic state, the next day you remember what went on.
Absolutely. You remember it vividly. In fact, what I tell my clients, people come to me in person, I say, well, if you're in hypnosis, what's going to happen is you're going to relax, you're going to close your eyes, you'll go into a relaxed state, and there's different levels of trance, and you go as deep as you need to go. And you're going to think I could snap out of this at any time, but you won't, because you're in this quiet, just like when you go to sleep at night, you retire into a trance. You just let yourself relax.
And what is it like in terms of meditation, or your experience with meditation?
It's the same thing as meditation.
Similar.
It's a directed meditation.
I see.
And then you are given by the hypnotherapist suggestions based on what you want to do for healing. And there are many, many powerful, easy-to-use techniques that work with your unconscious, because it's bringing your unconscious up, Alan, to your conscious. So instead of having all this stuff direct your life, we talked about where your life doesn't work and you don't know why. The art of healing is not, I need to heal. It's, what do I need to heal? You know, why is it I want to lose weight and I keep eating too much? I don't understand this. Well, there are parts of you that want to eat weight, and you start to dialogue or find out about those parts and heal them because they're misunderstood and they're lost, and you retrieve them through hypnosis, through a relaxed state, into wholeness, into oneness. And it's a very soulful experience, too.
Well, I mean, a state of relaxation in this busy world we live in, that in itself is a magnificent experience, right? Wouldn't you say?
Sure.
And interesting, I've always thought that if you can be in a relaxed state or a meditative state, the value of that unto itself is valuable because, you know, it gives you a feeling of what it feels like to feel not in tension, and it feels better.
And that's a part of a soulful experience. You feel detached, you feel more objective, you feel more compassionate, you're able to see things in a clearer perspective.
About yourself and everyone else.
Right. So it's a wonderful thing to do. It's the most natural thing to do. And this time you're not having commercials or people who want to, in some sense, control you
to buy a product,
for better or worse.
right.
Those people are hypnotizing you. How do you get hypnotized? Well, an authoritative figure, a figure that repeats things over and over again. Well, a hypnotherapist is doing that to help you, not to have you try to buy something you don't want to buy, or act a certain way, or follow a certain something or other, but for your own personal and spiritual growth.
And so, and this process does it always need a counselor, or is this technique another technique where you can almost put yourself in a meditative or hypnotic or a relaxed state yourself?
Oh, you can, and you do all the time. As you said, going into meditation is very similar. If you're actually doing a meditation where you have something you're contemplating, it is pretty much the same thing as hypnosis, because hypnosis is relaxing.
Guided. It's being guided.
It's being guided and structured.
Now, we've had different guests on who, through certain tools that they've learned or techniques, they can see or feel or know. Do you also have that ability or gift to, when you're dealing with somebody one-on-one, to see like a vision of their mother, or a vision of the color black, or
My strength intuitively is what's called the knowingness. The four different ways people intuitively, there are four intuitive senses, the higher senses, and as you get more connected with your soul, your intuition naturally grows, but it's a whole structure and a language in itself. Is the empathic one, the person who feels, is connected with other people's feelings, which can be a problem because you take on other people's feelings.
Right. Which is which after
all. And the clairaudient, where you're getting messages. And the visual, the idea of seeing visuals, seeing auras and so forth, and seeing pictures, and then the knowingness. And that tends to be my strong suit, just the knowingness. Now, whether I share that or not with another person is just whether I'm guided by my soul to do so. It's interesting, I'll have sessions with people, maybe I'll have several sessions by phone. I also do sessions by phone healing. And I'll get a message about the other person, and I'll check, should I share that with a person? Because a person can be very psychic, but that doesn't mean you should share everything.
Right.
In other words, do you share everything you think about with someone? Hopefully not.
Oh my God.
Well, the same thing can be psychic.
Thought of that is so scary. Oh my God.
That'll send a ripple through you.
Oh my God.
But the same thing can be through about intuitive things. So you want to check in with your soul. Is it discreet?
Is it appropriate at that moment? Is it
and,
right?
And I remember one time I got a message, no, don't, even though this is true. And then 3
Yeah,
sessions later,
it's appropriate at
I
that
just
moment.
said, right, and the person says, yes, thanks so much. That was just the right thing to say. And if you trust that, it grows, both your intuition and your soulful following the guidance of your soul.
Right, so I mean, as you in particular, as you're doing this and as you're involved in this, you too are coming more in contact with that, and more in contact with that inner knowing of when to hold and when to fold, and when to say, when not to say, when to start the school, when to fold the school, when to...
Right.
So you're more moving the way I describe it, with the wind in your sails.
Yeah. Now, in the Getting Through to Your Soul book, there's a process we call the heart focus, where you just focus on your heart as if it's a Valentine and just check it out. And I had a client the other day, and she did this, and I said, what's your heart like? And sometimes people see problems with their heart, and it may or may not mean anything physical, but it's something psychological, although it could be physical too. And some people see it being heavy, or holes in it, or swords in it, or the heart is closeted away.
There's almost no end to it.
Endless variations of problems. Right. Well, this person saw their heart in a positive framework and got a message that everything is fine, you don't have to worry. And a lot of times we will get those soulful messages, which are very powerful.
Right.
So my intuition said to her, well, it sounds like there's a part that doesn't think things are fine. What's that part like?
Right.
And that started a long series of healing. We used some of the spiritual kinesiology and techniques like we did earlier to open up those wounds. The wounds are there, just dealing with them consciously so she could heal them.
And you find that more and more people, as we go into this time with, as I said at the open, with this, I guess there's always been trauma, but it sure seems like there's a lot of trauma now. And we were talking earlier today, you know, you don't know which Starbucks is going to be blown up, which bus.
Yeah,
I mean, in a way, the world is very chaotic.
It's chaotic, and I'm hoping soon that the message about healing being positive will get out there. I don't mean healing by just drugs and taking a pill so you can make the symptoms disappear. Interesting, I don't know if there are any drugs that actually totally cure things. Most drugs, at least,
just deal with the symptoms.
They deal with the symptoms, so they mask the symptoms, and hopefully they don't have too many side effects.
I think the theory is that if the symptoms get dealt with, the immune system can heal it. You know, if it's not traumatic enough.
And so they
theory.
can be helpful.
Right. That's the theory.
But of the millions of people who are depressed, who are looking at ways to help themselves, and depression means a part of your life force is depressed, and if it's very depressed, you become feeling very hopeless and feeling like you can't do anything, because the more you ignore it, the more depressed you get. Well,
or even you make effort and it just nothing seems to work.
Yeah,
somehow.
nothing seems to work.
Right.
So what I'm suggesting is healing yourself should be a priority, should be something that society is saying, let's find ways to heal ourselves that are natural and preventative. And there's not a lot of messages out there, and so
Why do you think that is? I mean, it is odd, because we're all kind of in this together. We're all facing a lot of the same forces, a lot of the same. I mean, how many people you know who never get down or depressed, or you know, I mean, not that many. I mean, if there are, probably are some.
Well, virtually everyone has some blockages, and at certain points you want to address them or deal with them to some degree so they don't get worse. And the message is it hasn't been that profitable out there to heal, and the people are now having these tools being available to them, like spiritual kinesiology and EFT, and there are other tools, so people can start to heal themselves, and gives people a lot more power. It may not be that economically profitable for many groups, but it's something that would be very valuable for society in general.
Well, society seems to have decided that psychiatry or analysis is of value. Mm-hmm. So how come it hasn't gone to the next step of, you know, that kind of healing?
Well, it's getting there. These are called energy techniques and hypnosis. It's just whatever seems to challenge the establishment, there's a reaction, there's a resistance, and that seems to be how things change. And this hypnosis, although it's thousands of years old, is still pretty avant-garde. The energy techniques, the spiritual kinesiology, like we demonstrated earlier, and other energy techniques like in Getting Through to Your Soul and Getting Through to Your Emotions books, are gaining popularity, but they haven't been embraced by the mass media. So there's not large corporations, there's not large interests behind them at this point.
And do you think that one of the reasons, you know, at this time on this earth is that it's difficult to attach money value to it, and they'd rather attach it to a drug where you can have billion-dollar drugs for Prozac or, you know, those...
Well, I mean, in other words, I think as people want to heal more from their soul through spiritual kinesiology, more and more people who do advertising and stuff will take notice. But until there's enough people doing that, then who's profiting from it? It's not a large group at this point, although it's growing. It's a small, fast-growing minority.
And we're still in a world, in a paradigm where the necessary catalyst is money, in a way, is commerce.
And there's nothing wrong with money, and it's one of the most powerful archetypes in the world, but it's something that you want to get a clear relationship to. In other words, you want to use money, not have money use you. You want to have sort of a positive, healthy relationship to it, instead of feeling like money is a problem or just consuming your life. And that's hypnosis is a wonderful, wonderful way to do it. The spiritual kinesiology. In one of our tapes, there was a lady who had a problem with, was concerned about having enough money. Actually, she was a hypnotherapist on her own, single woman, and was wondering, you know, can I keep supporting myself with this? So we did a process where we said, well, picture, Catherine, what it's like when you think about money in your situation now. She said, I see a very arid desert that's very hot and stifling, and there's no vegetation, there's no growth. That's what it's like.
That seems uplifting.
Yeah, that's
a real positive.
But our problems when if you look at any of your problems, people will naturally, through their sixth chakra, have those negative images. This is normal. This is what's going on in your unconscious. Right. So by doing spiritual kinesiology, bringing down the light of her soul, as we showed earlier in the segment, everything transformed. And then we said, how does it look now, your situation? She said it's a beautiful tropical rainforest-like setting where things are growing all over the place. Everything shifted. She felt very good. She was laughing. I talked to her months later, and she felt, hey, you know, things are fine financially. You know, the worries have lifted, because she shifted her attitude.
And would it be that the actual physicality, the actual income, the actual revenue has stayed the same necessarily? It's just her way of looking at it?
It can be
either way.
Either or. Because the abundance is how you perceive it.
Right.
So you
so
may
it's the
feel
half full, half empty situation. Or it could be that because she was more free about it, it would draw more.
Both are probably true.
Possible, yeah.
Because what does the money represent? It's not the money. You don't want just green paper. You want the things it represents. So how do you get those things?
Well, a lot of people, it's a safety factor.
Yeah, safe. So how do you feel safety and secure? How do you feel safe and secure? What would make you more safe and secure?
Right.
So you can start there.
Right. We talked about that earlier. It's like, each leaf is either healthy or sick, but if you can heal the root, and the root is knowing that internal soul, that peace, that love.
And as I
without blockages.
Well, one lady, we did a demonstration in spiritual kinesiology, and we teach that in the hypnotherapy school as well. She was anxious about what job she should choose. She had a split there, and we did the healing, and she resolved the emotions. And the message she got from her soul was simply, why would you want to do a job that you didn't like?
Simple.
And a lot of people will do it for security, and yet you poll most people, and most people don't like what they do, and that's what they do most of the time. So there's some disconnect there. Why would they do it for security? But are they secure if they're unhappy? Because part of being happy is being secure and safe. So as you see it more from that soulful perspective, that holistic perspective, then you start making different choices, one that empower you.
But we do get into the splits in a human being between the monetary security and and then my family, and all these factors come in that set us up in places where we're not really feeling that connection, feeling that flow.
And so that would be an area to do the healing on. So you may feel very good about your relationship with your work, but maybe your relationship with your mate is not so good, or a certain part of it. So then you would do that one. I remember one lady I helped, she said she was upset at her husband because he wasn't recycling, he wasn't environmentally sensitive, and she was...
Of all the ways that marriage is going to break up.
She was very annoyed. And so as we were doing it, she started feeling better through this energy technique. We were doing the EFT tapping, but she got to a certain limitation on the healing. Because
especially when you took the bottle and threw it into the garden.
No, I didn't do
that.
I
know. I mean,
and,
you're a good man, I understand.
And so she finally said, I said, well, Barbara, I said, how come you feel like you can't totally get rid of this annoyance? She said, I don't think it's possible to get rid of this quickly. And then once she embraced the idea that it is possible,
right,
then she rid herself of the annoyance, and she could look at it differently.
So I think we have just a couple of minutes left. In the last minute, what would you, in 1 minute, want people to take away from this show? Except that the host is whacked, but other than that, it's
Well, I'd say the main thing I'd say with people is people want to find ways to follow their true purpose. Everyone is here for a specific reason, or many specific reasons, but there's some guiding light, there's some reason you're here, more than just existing, more than just eating, more than just surviving, more than just getting through the day. And it may not be immediately obvious what that is, but if you keep following that purpose, if you keep following what gives you joy, which brings you freedom, what makes you feel love and loving, then you're going to be on the right path, because it's a moment-to-moment thing. Many times, my wife and I, in our Awakening Institute and having this wonderful life, we would try to follow things that people told us were good to do, that made sense in marketing and stuff, and then say, okay, it makes sense, we'll try it, and it wouldn't work. But when we followed what had energy, what gave us a feeling that was good about ourselves, that was exciting, that was soulful, that brought in the light, it worked, and it continues to work, and we just follow that.
Wow. So, again, we're coming to the end of the show, and there was just so much said. I mean, Phillip, brought his passion, brought his love, all the effort and energy he's put into it. So if you want any information about workshops, the school, Alan, 805-687-2053. That's Alan, 805-687-2053. www.gettingthru.org.
Gettingthru.org.
Or go to the bridging site, which you've seen on the, heaventoearth.com, and there will be links to Phillip's site. We love you. We do it for you. We do it for us. Good night. God bless you. Thanks for coming.